Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it today. Today I wanted to talk to you about our benefits, compensation primarily, pension. Are they going to get cut next year? And the answer is really no. But I'm going to just kind of go through it a little bit and just kind of talk with you face to face, not reading nothing, just kind of talking it over, right? So please hit the thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. So originally, the Congressional Budget Office, right? Everybody remembers the CBO, put out their original proposals or suggestions to Congress, basically, on what they felt could be ways to rectify the tremendous amount of debt that we have, is the bottom line, right? So one of those ways was to curb spending on the VA side. And that caused a lot of uproar, right? Because when you start talking about taking money away, that's never a good place to be. So what they had talked about, if you remember right, is putting some caps on household income. Now, what's completely disturbing about that idea is that you could make nothing per year and your spouse could make $175,000 a year, and because your household is bringing in $175,000 a year, you would get $0 per month from the VA for compensation if that proposal went through. Now, nobody's really talked about it since then, but it's a horrible idea, and it starts to paint a horrible picture for us as a veteran community. Now, just for giggles here, if something like that were to go into effect, I would guess that they would essentially grandfather everyone else in, and then new people would have to deal with those new rules, I would think. But just because something doesn't affect you probably doesn't make it necessarily right or okay, right? So even if, for example, I would be fine with something and it doesn't change my life at all, I would still be pissed off if it affects somebody that comes behind me because it just is not right. So there was a kind of a cascading or a sliding scale per se with that Congressional Budget Office proposal, which basically, I don't remember the exact numbers, but you know, if you've paid attention at all, there was quite a few different videos out from different folks regarding it. And I want to say it started somewhere around 120,000 or so up to like 170,000 or so. And the more you made, the more you didn't get as far as a household income was concerned. So again, it doesn't seem like any of that is going anywhere, which is fine and that's good, right? But again, what we don't want to do is we don't want to bury our heads in the sand and pretend like, well, it never happened before, it's not going to happen again. We need to be aware of this stuff and know that it's being talked about and what are the conversations behind closed doors and all of that good stuff. So moving on from that Congressional Budget Office proposal, you had the Washington Post doubling down on the idea of reducing veteran benefits for disabled veterans, which just sounds wrong on every level. Remember that not every veteran is collecting VA compensation for disabilities. In fact, it's closer to a 28, 29%, maybe 30% of veterans, less than 30% probably for the entire nation, meaning that 70% of veterans are not receiving any sort of VA disability compensation. So just a little fun fact there, and that's like 16.5 million veterans. So just important information to know when they're talking about this stuff. So Washington Post comes out, they do their spiel. So now we have two different bodies that have a audience talking about cutting your benefits. Now again, do I think that any of that stuff is going to come to fruition? No. It won't come to fruition, those things. And even if they did, I can't see them going just a wide swipe and just taking it from everybody. It would be kind of a moving forward thing, I believe, because here's part of the reason. When it comes to VA compensation, it is a major economic factor for a lot of states. So you're talking in the top 3 states, California, Texas, Florida, and I say top 3 states in veteran population. So the largest veteran population states just by sheer number. There are around $10 billion of VA compensation and pension benefits coming in annually, so into each one of those states. So it's huge numbers, and the states and all the state legislators would all be up in arms about it too if all of a sudden a lot of that money got cut. So just to kind of throw that piece out there. Now, the next piece that kind of unfolded here was the House budget proposal. And in that House budget proposal, now this part's important. It's kind of all over the place. And we hear this 22%. And I talked about the 22% too. And I read originally the information from the VA's website, their kind of response to the House proposal, budget proposal. What it sounds like is there is, in that budget proposal, essentially a rollback to 2022 levels, with the exception of DOD, which would remain whole, and everybody else would effectively be working with a 22% budget cut. Now, the way that it's being talked about is with the idea that every single department through the federal government that receives funding, right, would all realize this same 22%, right, except for DOD. So the VA's response was in preparation for if the president, kind of goes through and everybody agrees that, yep, 22% is fine, even though there's a lot of pushback, I'm just kind of throwing it out there, that it would affect everybody exactly the same. It's not necessarily the case, and this is the first blush, right? This is the first throw over the fence as they try to negotiate things. Now remember that everybody on the Democrat side is going to be opposed to the Republican-controlled House's proposal. So that leaves, I believe it's 4 on the Republican side to have to vote yes. If they vote no, then it doesn't even pass the House. Now, the idea is that if there's enough pushback and stomping the feet from the veteran community, they should, in my opinion, be listening and do another carve-out, right? So in other words, hey, we're looking at trying to control the budget and spending and, paying off college debts and all these different things is probably not a great idea right now. Let's roll back a little bit, and oh, by the way, we're going to keep DOD whole, and we're going to keep VA whole, and Social Security probably, right? Whole, as far as outgoing payment. Nobody's going to reduce payments. So that would maintain the upward trajectory for the ability to service veterans. It does not affect your compensation. So everything that the VA was talking about and all the stuff that we're hearing about the consequences of a 22% budget cut are all regarding the services that we receive from the VA and other entities. There's some of that, other entities that also serve veterans, but primarily the VA and what they do for us. It does not affect, and it is not being talked about affecting your compensation payments. There's no talk about that in this proposal at all. So what you get is what you get, and that's all squared away. And I believe that and they pass it all the time, but every time they have to put it through the whole process to approve the VA's COLA to mirror Social Security's COLA. So that's already been passed and approved for October's coming of the COLA numbers. So that part's already, your compensation squared away, your COLA is squared away for next year. This budget cut potential proposal, whatever, has a couple different factors. And if that were to go through, you're looking at reduced services from the VHA, from the VBA, and from the national cemeteries. And that's where you'll start to see some backlog. You'll see some, things slipping through the cracks. Things are going to take longer. They already take too long, all that type of stuff. So what we're fighting for at this point as a veteran community is to be able to make an appointment and get seen in a timely fashion at the VHA, the Veterans Healthcare Administration. We are fighting for, hey, if I file a claim or somebody behind me files a claim or a surviving spouse files a claim, we want that to be processed in a fair amount of time, not taking 2 years, 4 years, 6 years like, whatever it was 7, 8 years ago when it was taking 4 years to file to get a claim processed. So those are the things that we're fighting for to preserve and to increase. There are record number after record numbers right now of veterans seeking VA assistance, either through compensation, pension, getting health care, so forth. The PACT Act's been really good so far as getting people out of the woodworks and filing for claims. Well, if we're getting an increase in veterans that are accessing the VA and we don't have an upward momentum for the staffing of these different things that we're utilizing, we're just going to get horrendous results as far as time frames and service and all that stuff. So those are the things that we're fighting for, is to preserve that. So don't take anything less than that, because the problem here is that, yes, your compensation's not affected. Okay, well, if you ever have to file a claim, you're screwed. It's going to take a lot longer. If you ever have to make an appointment to go to the VA, that could potentially take longer. If you have services for you or a loved one for cemeteries, that could take longer, or maybe the cemeteries aren't being upkept like they should, which would just be a disgrace. So with that, I'll go ahead and end it there. Just wanted to, bottom line, your compensation is not being affected, period. What we're fighting for here is services to kind of move in the same direction as the folks filing claims, right? We need to be able to get things done in a timely fashion, whether it's getting your claim fully adjudicated in a timely fashion, making an appointment for medical and you're being seen in a timely fashion, and if services are rendered for cemeteries, that those are handled appropriately. So with that, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.